Dude, we had such a great show last week. It was just you, me, and Bob Harris.
I know.
I know you were looking forward to it, just being you, me, and Pat.
Yeah, I didn't want Chase here.
Chase has to come in. Why couldn't he get on a plane going back to California tonight?
Shit. I was so excited when because I don't pay attention to the schedules or anything. But Pat DM'd me earlier and asked me about something, and I was like, I can't. But then he was like, oh, I'll talk to you tonight on your show. And I'm like, wow, Pat's on the show tonight. That's awesome. I knew it was coming up, but I didn't know it was tonight.
And it is, in fact, tonight.
Yeah,
a momentous night.
exciting.
Are we going to talk about Miles Sanders, too?
Damn right we are.
I can't wait to hear what Chase.
Panthers.
Oh, yeah, my God.
I can't wait to hear Chase got a backup quarterback, or, well, maybe he's a starting quarterback. I don't know.
I'm not a Washington fan anymore, okay? Drop it. I told you guys this. I gave up on Washington years ago, all right? Stop saying that.
Jacoby Brissett.
Oh, well, that's a good bridge quarterback. A bridge to nowhere, but,
Yeah, I was just going to say, who are they bringing in now? I love how everybody's saying, like, this eliminates Washington potentially, like, taking a quarterback. And I'm like, I don't know if that's the case. Like, this makes more sense now to actually move and get a guy like Anthony Richardson. But, I can't even believe they're talking about taking Anthony Richardson at 101 at this point.
No, they're not.
It was a conversation.
That's stupid people talking. Stupid people talk a lot and say a lot of stupid things because that's what stupid people do. Dude, there's no way they traded up for Anthony Richardson. You don't trade all that for a project, for a quarterback that couldn't complete 56% of his passes in college, that couldn't start until his third year in college.
Wait. Tell that to the 49ers before you say anything, because
Trey Lance showed more than we ever saw from Anthony Richardson. Now, it might have been at a different level, obviously, North Dakota State or Iowa Land.
Yeah, and it wasn't – he didn't show that at the Combine. I mean, come on, the Combine, bro, the Combine.
Yeah, the Combine. The Underwear Olympics. I mean, dude, he broke it, didn't he? Hey, Chase, I think this question is directly to you. Can Jamie give up on the Browns yet? Do they?
I've been telling Jamie he should be doing that for a long time. No, honestly, like I've had more faith ever since Stefanski came into ability, but it's still not good.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough. Y'all ready to get into it? Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
This is Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Shane Manila, Jacob Sanderson, and Chase Vernon.
Yes, welcome into the Fantasy Intervention. I am your host, Fantasy J77, over there on Twitter, with my co-host tonight, Chase Vernon, at FF_intervention. We got to get that changed, or I got to practice that a little bit more. Shane Manila, at Shane is the worst, because his is so easy that we got to change yours to Shane. We got Shane is the worst, and Chase is not the best.
Chase is a pedo. How about that?
Guys,
I'm not rocking a mustache tonight. Chill out, bro.
See what happens when you miss a week?
Yeah.
Guys, I hope y'all are doing great. But most importantly, we have a very, very special guest tonight from the Windy City, here to talk about all things fantasy free agency. Pat Fitzmaurice from FantasyPros and Betting Pros at Fitz_FF over there on Twitter. Mr. Pat Fitzmaurice, how are you tonight, sir? Are you ready to get into some fantasy free agency?
Doing well, Jay. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to talking to you and Chase and Shane. I guess even Shane too.
Yeah.
Shane's a good guy most of the time, so I think it'll be a fun show.
I'm going to do my best to make sure that it's not now.
Pat, don't you worry about Shane one bit. I can mute and kick. It's good to go. Let's get into some of the news we had over this past week. We've got a bunch of free agency to get into, but the Bears trade the number 1 overall pick to Carolina. They get DJ Moore Pat, I know you got to be happy about this. They're getting the 9th pick along with the 1st and 24 and a 2nd and 25. Now, here's my question on this. That 24 first could very well be a top 5 pick. And I don't think a lot of people are looking that far ahead. So they could, in theory, get DJ Moore, number 9 overall this year, and number 3, number 4, number 5 next year. How are you feeling about this this trade here?
Well, less happy than you would think, Jay, because I happen to be a Packers fan living behind enemy lines. And, this was obviously a really good move for the Bears. And, yeah, as you said, this could be a high pick next year. So if the Justin Fields thing doesn't work out the way the Bears are hoping, they are going to have the ammo to move up or just use that pick possibly in a quarterback-heavy draft in 2024 to, take the next step at quarterback. I don't think that's going to be the case. I'm optimistic about Fields, but the Bears are moving in the right direction. This was quite a haul, and all because the Houston Texans converted a 4th and goal at the 20 or 21 yard line, and then converted the 2-point. They're going to work on the statue of Lovie Smith at the Bears' new stadium in nearby Arlington Heights, not far from where I am right now. So, good move for the Bears. They're set up for the future, and with all their cap money to spend, they're in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
Come on, Gator J. You got to do your homework. Pat is a Packers
fan.
I know.
I know. That's why I will get to his Packers fandom and see how his heart is feeling here in a very short little bit.
Can I tell you something, though? Because I never watched the Pat McAfee show before today. Mm-hmm. So when I saw PMS live trending, I was like, what in the fuck is going on? I didn't understand it. It was an acronym for his show.
You everybody got an invite to come and watch it.
There was roughly 500,000 of us watching it.
Absolutely. Yes. I was watching it in my van as I'm driving down the road at 75 miles an hour. So it was quite interesting.
Vans go that fast? I didn't even know vans went that fast.
Well, mine, you drive vans. Come on, Pito Chase. Mine
does.
Bro.
All right. Chase, this one's for you. Cowboys are cutting Zeke Elliott. Does he have any fantasy value left at all?
He's more on a path to destroy everybody else's fantasy value, similar to what we saw from, I think, like Frank Gore is probably the most relevant running back that just went from team to team to team to team for years on end, just destroying everybody's fantasy values. I mean, he's going to have some goal line work. I would probably still consider drafting him in best ball. If he's in Dynasty, you have to hold him. I mean, you weren't getting anything for him before, but you're definitely not getting anything for him now, and you got to wait and hope for an injury. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if his value is any lower than what it was a few days ago, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I can agree with that. Shane, Austin Ekeler asked for a trade or asked for permission to seek a trade, and it was granted. What were your first thoughts when you heard the news, and where would you like to see Ekeler other than your Eagles?
Well, he's not going anywhere. The one offense I'd like to see him in, he's not going to get traded to the Chiefs, because that's just where I want any pass catching running back. I just want every running back. I'm like, how about the Chiefs? Chiefs should sign him. Kareem Hunt, they should sign him. What happened? Did they have a messy divorce? I don't remember. Look, when a player's seeking a trade for himself, never happens. It literally never happens. Darius Slay, how's that trade working out for you, buddy? Oh, wait, you just got your ass cut. I'm just saying, if when the news breaks that a player is going to seek his own trade, that means that the team's already kicked the can around the league, and the league's like, nah, we're good. Look, I like Ekeler, but that's the offense that he's built for. Now he's going to see a lot less checkdowns than he did Lambeau there last year. I think he saw something in the neighborhood of 336 targets a game, all those dump offs. So I'll probably see a lot less in this offense. But if not here, I guess Miami. I mean, Miami hasn't really made any moves other than bringing back Raheem Mostert and Myles Gaskins for some
Jeff Wilson.
Yeah, they got all.
And Jeff Wilson. Yeah. They brought them all back.
Yep.
And Salvin Ahmed.
Yeah,
I think they brought back Salvin too. I think they did.
They did. All right. Well,
I think the word on the street is they're going to bring back Mark Duper and Mark Clayton in the next 24 to 48 hours. So that's
super
awesome.
Dupers. Super Marks.
Can I just say Joshua Kelly season? I mean, that's what we're all thinking, right? That's what's going to happen. Joshua Kelly season.
No one is thinking that.
I love how Shane and Pat both literally did the exact same thing. The slow no while shaking your head no.
No, but if you want to talk about a running back that everyone should be trading today, immediately, how about Khalil Herbert?
Yes. 100%. That's the guy to be moving in dynasty leagues. I mean, I don't think his value's been any higher. And the thing was, so I was trying to acquire him prior to this. Like, I wanted him everywhere before Montgomery moved on. And now it's like, okay, now I need to get rid of him. It's not even that I want to hold him to see if I can get any more value out of him. Now it's like, let's ship him off and get him the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
because I don't think it can get any higher than what it is right now.
So real quick, if you could have got Herbert late in the season last year, for what would you have had to give up for Herbert late in the season last year, and then turned around? You could probably double or triple that at this point, right?
Here's the problem: you couldn't have bought him last year for less than a second.
Yeah,
so
you
would
second all day
during the season. Prior to the season, you could have gotten him for a third as a throw into a trade, something like that. Like you got a future cast like that to turn a profit. Because right now, guess what? You can trade him for a second. No one's going to give you a first for him. I mean, not in any league where anyone has a little bit of acumen at this game.
He right now, his best asset or the best value that he has is using him to be able to upgrade to another player. Like you say, hey, I'm going to give you this guy plus a running back that was a backup, but still has value as backup, but now as a starter. So you end up being able to upgrade your positions, and that's what I've done. I think I had him in about 20% of my leagues. I think I've been able to move him about 15% of those, is using him as a piece to move up to grab a better asset. A guy that doesn't have question marks like wide receiver, maybe a backup quarterback, or essentially a bench quarterback for you, maybe like a Daniel Jones, something along those lines is what I'm targeting.
Raiders traded Darren Waller to the Giants for a third, which turns out to be the 100 overall pick. I love this move for the Giants. If Waller stays healthy, is he still a top 5, or can he get back to a top 5 tight end? Shane.
Well, you know what? I've talked a lot already, and I like listening to Pat. So let's get Pat's take on this.
Yeah, it was a good move for them, probably because they're not going to be able to totally fill out their wide receiver room. I mean, it's just not a good wide receiver group in free agency. It's kind of I don't know. Some people think it's deep at wide receiver this rookie class. I'm not so sure about that. So it helps. But as far as Waller's value, top 5 seems a little optimistic to me for a guy who's going to turn 31 right around week 1 of the 2023 season, a guy who's missed 14 games the last 2 years. So a good piece for sure. Top 5, a lot would have to break right for him, mainly health. And I don't know if that's going to be the case for him. It seems like, I don't know. I'm not really looking to acquire Waller based on this trade. It just seems like trying to catch a falling knife.
Yeah, I definitely, it's tough, like sitting there and wanting to acquire a player that had a late breakout and then all of a sudden fell off later, in his career. It almost seems it's not as bad as like Gary Barnidge, because that was just like one season, but at the same time, it's like, okay, like what's he gonna do? And we all know how Brian Daboll's offense looks. Like we know that they only feature the tight end when it comes to the red zone for the most part. And he's not a blockhead. I said, well, I guess where it gets sexier for me is if the Giants don't make moves to acquire a high-end wide receiver, because we already know how fragile this room is. But even if they end up making an acquisition, like a second-round pick, I still would end up, I guess, I would take a shot on Waller if somebody wanted to come off him for like super cheap. But this isn't a time to go acquire Waller by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's lost value making this move.
Yeah, I mean, Waller lost value last year. I remember trying to trade him before last season, and people were out. And I'm like, wow, just off of one injury-plagued season, that's all it took. And people were like, yeah, that's all it takes. And then he comes off another bad year. He's the one thing is he's immediately the best receiving option on the Giants. Sterling Shepard, notwithstanding, I'm assuming he can play, more than 4 games next year.
Assuming Waller can too.
Waller doesn't have a real history of injuries, though. I mean, really, it was just one year.
He's played 11 games the last 2 years each.
Yeah, it's been 2 years that he's had injury history, and
Yeah.
even before that, I mean, he wasn't. I guess he was drafted as a wide receiver, right? Or maybe he
Yeah.
was wide receiver that got drafted as tight end. Either
Well,
way,
he was
then he had,
drafted. If he was drafted, he was drafted by Baltimore, and that was a pickup. And this is where Baltimore decided they weren't going to have their taxi squad players out there warming up with their team anymore pregame, because John Gruden back in the day when he was with the Raiders, that's where he found Waller was warming up, and he was like, "Who was that?" They got on the plane to leave. They signed him off the practice squad as soon as that was done.
Yeah, I don't think he has any value at this point. I wouldn't try and acquire him by any stretch of the imagination, especially at his age.
That's the problem. Is if you want to acquire him, you're going to have to give up a second-round rookie pick. Now, if it's just 206 or later, sure, I'll take the shot.
Okay.
I still think he's good. But yeah, if he's not, like you guys brought up, he just played 22 games out of the last 33, so that's not great.
I'd much rather have Kincaid, and I'd much rather have Washington at this point.
Why do you want Washington? Outside of the combine, where he's actually caught a couple passes, he has like 6 more receptions than you do in college.
I just think he's an asset that at this point, like in the late round picks, I would much rather have as a developmental option at tight end. And if he goes out and he has a decent season, guess what? He's going to be going for an early second round pick next year. So all he has to do is have a glimpse. And that's my favorite thing to do, is draft these rookie tight ends like a Bellinger in the 4th round.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sold him for like everywhere for early 3rd round picks. Drafting Foster Moreau in the 4th round, selling them everywhere for early 3rd round picks. Like it's one of the easiest tricks in
I mean, I think you're being very anecdotal, because if you could look at the RAS scores of all the tight ends, since RAS is the favorite thing of everyone that's ever existed this year. But if you look at tight end RAS scores, every time there's an athletic freak tight end, everyone's like, oh, just get this guy, and then you're going to trade him in a couple of years. What happens is he does absolutely nothing on your roster for 2 years. You cut him, and then in like year 3 or 4, he shows some value, and you're like, well, if I would have just held on to him for 6 years, I would have been able to turn that profit into a 312.
I'm telling you, Bates went for a 3rd round pick for me, and I didn't even draft him in a rookie draft that had 5 picks. Yeah, dude, any tight end that has any kind of snap share will end up going for a 3rd round pick easy in dynasty leagues for teams that don't have tight ends, because they see an upcoming class of abysmal tight ends. They don't want to spend draft picks on it. I'm telling you, it's an easy flip every time, and I love doing it, and I'll keep doing it.
But here's where we're going to get a lot of Pat's feelings right here. Maybe getting hurt. I'm not sure. Aaron Rodgers to the Jets seems inevitable. Today he was on the Pat McAfee show and said he wants to play this year, and he wants to play with the Jets. Love it, like it, hate it. Whose fantasy value on the Jets does Rodgers help the most, Pat?
I mean, I think it's generally good for all the pass catchers, Jay. I mean, especially Garrett Wilson, who just could be a monster with just competent quarterbacking. But here's the thing. Nathaniel Hackett was with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay from 2019 to 2021, and they ran the offense at a glacial pace under Nathaniel Hackett. And pretty certain they're going to be among the slowest this year in seconds between snaps yet again. And with this Jets defense, which is likely to be one of the top 5 defenses in the league, the Jets are probably not going to be playing a lot of shootouts. So I don't see Rodgers having a lot of 40 pass attempt games, a lot of 300, 350-yard games. I mean, they're going to be able to play a balanced game. I mean, I like this for Breece Hall a lot. I think they're going to have a lot of run-friendly game scripts and, a lot of longer, more fruitful drives with Rodgers at quarterback rather than Zach Wilson or Joe Flacco or Mike White. So, I think it helps all the pass catchers incrementally, but I would warn people against trying to, take the rocket ship on Garrett Wilson or any other guy just because of Aaron Rodgers.
See, that's a good point. Just because of Aaron Rodgers. You should already be on the rocket ship with Garrett Wilson anyway. You should have already been buying him. So this is just added cream on top of the bagel or whatever. That's not a saying, but I'll make it up. It's just, you get the bagel and then you get the cream. The cream is good.
I can't.
I'll say this just real quick about Aaron Rodgers, right? Listening to the Pat McAfee show today for, I guess, 15 minutes.
First
That was
time
the-
ever you've watched that show because
and
it
that
said
was the
PMS, and you were like, "Yes, okay, I need to have that."
longest 15 minutes of my life. Listening to Aaron Rodgers talk is one of the most exhausting things that I've ever been through. It is absolutely horrendous. I can see why his family doesn't speak to him. I can see why he is constantly getting broken up with. I can see why the Packers want to move on from him. I couldn't get through fucking 20 minutes of listening to that self-righteous, indignant, pompous ass. Good Lord, he is exhausting. Like, can you imagine dealing with that every day of your life, having to talk to him?
Dude,
Sorry.
I mean, I sit here and have to listen to you talk once a week, so I can only imagine.
I was thinking the same thing.
No, but I honestly I can't stand Aaron Rodgers' mind game stuff, but it's all publicity stuff. It's all what he's doing to build it up. I mean, we hated LeBron James for making the decision. Like, this is just as bad. But I mean, what they're doing right now in Green Bay is they're just setting everything up to be able to move on. They're getting the thank yous right. They're getting the the salary cap right. They're getting everything right before they announce it all. And with Aaron Rodgers and also the paid salaries and all that stuff, I think it's a lot more complicated than what we're giving it credit to, where, team wants to move Jalen Ramsey, it's not a big deal. But you're talking about a staple of the organization for almost 20 years. So of course it's going to take some time for them to move on, instead of just saying, okay, bye, you're gone, see you later, we'll catch you next week.
I mean, maybe. I think it's probably more likely compensation, like what they're getting back from the Jets. And they have no leverage, which is part of it. And they have even less leverage now that Aaron Rodgers went out there and basically was like, I don't, they don't want me here. I don't want to be here. I told them last Friday to move me. We're basically just waiting on them. So, like, if you're the Jets, you're like, well, hey, Green Bay, I will give you a 4th rounder, or you're free to have him retire and take a $70 million cap hit this year. Or he come to the stadium every week and just undermine Jordan Love. So they really kind of screwed themselves there. So I'm really wondering what the compensation is going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting situation. But we're going to talk about some free agency coming up here. But before we do, I want to tell you about some trophy smack, wall smack, baby. Got it in the house last week. I am in love with this thing. It is solid. Goes right up on the wall. Sitting right here is the gator head. So we are live. We are good to go. Make sure when you go over to Trophy Smack, you are using the promo code ADVICE10. Get you 10% off. Chase, yes. Got the Joker in the house. Got Grandma with the middle finger. Swap them out like that. I'm going to tell you what, man. When I got this thing in, no shit, it's got the magnet, but then they give you a piece. It's a sticker that goes on the wall so it doesn't destroy the wall. So you wipe the wall down, put the sticker on the wall. Magnet sticks to that so that when you're done, you need to move out, you need to repaint, whatever. You peel that thing right off. It doesn't damage the wall at all. Get over there and check out Trophy Smack. Go over there and look at some of their wall smack. You upload your own pictures. Get them off your phone. It is absolutely amazing. Great quality. Great stuff over there. Advice10 is your promo code. All right, fellas, let's get into some of these free agencies. Free agencies with the tags being placed on a lot of players. It seemed like this year's free agency wasn't going to be as exciting. I think it actually was more exciting than the last couple of years, at least in my opinion. So let's dive in. First of all, Jimmy G signs with the Raiders, 3 years, $72 million. They also got Jacoby Myers, 3 years, $33 million. How does this affect the fantasy value of Devontae Adams? Is he still a top 5, top 7 wide receiver in fantasy? Chase.
I actually want to bounce this one down to Pat real quick just to make sure the mic is working right. So,
okay, yes.
Yeah, do I sound better?
Yeah,
Do I...
Oh, much
better. Yeah, people were worried, after all those years of smoking that maybe I got the voice box and was I'll weigh in. Like, maybe a slight downgrade. I mean, Adams goes from having this great rapport with Aaron Rodgers to being reunited with his former college quarterback at Fresno State, where they put up circus numbers for 2 years. And, now he's got no established rapport with Jimmy G. So maybe it takes a little time to build that up. But Adams is still pretty awesome. I just don't know if I would take him in the first round of a redraft league or go way out over my skis to get him in Dynasty now, when maybe, this isn't one of his more glorious seasons coming up ahead. Maybe it takes a little time to adjust, but I'm not too worried about Jacoby Myers eating into it. That's not the concern. The concern is more just not having any established chemistry with Jimmy G.
Yeah, going into his age 31 year, is that right? I think he's going to be 31 going in this year. So yeah, I can see the question marks in Dynasty. I still think it's going to be he could be a top 12 in wide receiver in redraft. Chase?
I'm on both sides of the spectrum. I can make an argument for both sides because we saw. I can't. I'm going to go on a 15-minute monologue about how I can make a case for both sides. I'm going to argue.
I can mute you.
So no, I personally think that on one side of the coin, we saw, when Derek Carr started getting frustrated, right, and we also saw Adams started to get frustrated. I mean, Adams put on a historical output that was greater over, I think, a 4 or 5 game span than what Cooper Kupp had the entire of 2021, in 5 total games. It was one of the best. I mean, it might have been 4 games. So it was the best 4-game output of any wide receiver I think that we've ever seen. So are we going to see that happen with Jimmy G? That will probably never happen. And that helped boost the Devontae Adams stats big time. Now, with that being said, I think people are fading Devontae Adams. So I would also like to go acquire him if I can get him for a early second, late first round pick, because people are trying to rebuild or whatever. So I think at this point, it has more to do with where the person in your league has them, who has them, what their team is looking like, in terms of buying versus selling, and obviously where your team is at. If you're on a rebuilding team, you obviously want to go and acquire them. So I'm somebody that it just depends on the value of what a veteran that can get you a top, wide receiver 1 numbers, where you're sitting at in terms of, do you want to go try to win a championship this year or not?
So in startups, he's going probably late first, early second, mid second, somewhere in that range. But you would be willing in Dynasty to give up a late first, early second rookie draft pick.
Yeah, if I won the championship last year and I had Chris Godwin, and now I have to deal with Kyle Trask or Baker Mayfield as my QB1, I don't trust that. So I need to find another guy that could end up taking that spot. I don't care. I don't care what your damn wall smack is. I just don't want to. I feel more comfortable essentially running out, Devontae Adams than that. I'd be willing to give up a first round pick in order to make sure that I can go win that championship if I won last year. So it's only for competing teams, but and how much the value matter. If they're asking for an early first round pick or multiple first round picks or a first and a second, I wouldn't do that. It would either be a late first or early second.
Yeah, and look, and if you have Devontae Adams on your roster, there's absolutely no impetus to sell him for a late second or a second. So you just hold him till the season comes, and you go, all right, points matter. So let me see when he's out here dropping 20 points a game. If someone wants to then give up a first, I'm with Chase. I hate agreeing with him, but I would give up a late first for him. I'm all about using my late first on old people. I'll spend one on him, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, whatever. I know it's a 1-year proposition. And it's not something that you should do often, but if you've got the picks, you got a little bit of asset chest, war chest. There you go. Then I'm fine with going ahead and doing that.
Juju, would you spend it on Juju?
No.
Well, Juju signed with the Patriots, exact same contract as Jacoby Myers did.
That's so funny.
3 years,
so funny. And then,
$33
oh my
million.
God, Jacoby Myers' tweet after seeing that.
Yeah.
Damn, dude. But I mean, honestly, before we move on to that one, I think that the player that takes the biggest hit, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, is Hunter Renfrow, and I don't know what to do with him.
Well,
because
does anybody really take a hit with Waller gone now?
Yeah, I mean, Waller didn't acquire targets this past year, and Hunter Renfrow was hurt for the majority of the year. So, I mean, what do we do with Renfrow?
They also utilized him a lot less. I mean, this is going to be the Devontae Adams 180 targets, Jacoby Myers 110 targets, and then everybody else just is the little fish. type of
Josh
deal.
Jacobs.
Pat,
Yeah,
do you
Josh
think they move
Jacobs.
on from him?
That's a good question. I don't know if they keep him in the roster or not, but I mean, like, I don't know, his value is in the tank in Dynasty now. Like, you're not getting a third rounder for Hunter Renfrow. You know, I mean, it's
Like Baltimore loves their slot receivers, right? They always have loved these shifty guys. At least over the past like few years. Like, could it be a trade target for another team? Would you want to acquire him before he ends up getting traded?
I don't know. Good question. Like, I don't know if the high volume Hunter Renfrow we saw a couple seasons ago, if that was just sort of a product of circumstances, or if he can actually like be that guy in the right situation. I don't know. I guess he was kind of a baller that year, but I don't know who's going out and chasing him now.
Hunter Renfrow is the biggest question mark in the NFL right now. And I've talked to 10 people about it, and we're all over the place. We could be like, oh, he could see this, but he could also be this. And I don't think there's a question or a bigger question mark in the entire fantasy community than Hunter Renfrow. I really don't.
Would you give up a third for him, Chase?
I would 100% give up a third. Where I would start to kind of feel my way is like late second round pick, early third, like a 301, 302. But then that's when my tier drops off. I think is like right around the 303, and obviously the draft could change that. But as of right now, like I want the guy that I know can create yards after the catch. I want the guy that I know can end up soaking up targets, and he plays the same exact position as Jacoby Myers. So why would they keep him if a team comes out and offers a fifth round pick for him? I think they would take that and run.
The Raiders just said we don't want. Get rid of this guy.
Josh McDaniels hates injured players. Like he hates having guys on his team that don't play full seasons. And we've seen it. We've seen jettison guys for the past several seasons from his offenses that can't stay healthy. So I think that Hunter Renfrow could be one of those guys that he just says, hey, give me a fifth round pick, give me a fourth round pick, and you guys can have him. He's 27, I believe. So, I mean, he's obviously at the apex age, quote unquote, at an injured position, but so it's not like he's going to ever gain value. But I mean, for a third round pick, why wouldn't you do that for a guy that can see over 100 targets in multiple different offenses? I mean, the Giants. Why not the Giants? No, I'm just kidding. The Giants obviously wouldn't take him. Otherwise, they would have included that in the trade. But
they got Wandell, right?
Yeah, they're not going to trade him. But I mean, I just see so many different situations.
Yeah, let's move over to Juju, who signed that same year or signed the same contract. I don't know that we really need to talk about it too much, but the other side of this coin, I wanted to bring this up. Juju being gone, does it increase the value for, like a Tony or MVS or anybody over in the Chiefs?
I mean, Kadarius Toney, wide receiver 1, but.
Well, you've said that for about 7 years, right? So, Pat?
I don't know if Tony's value is really affected by who's around him. It's just affected by his health. I mean, the guy's going to ball out if he's healthy, but, the guy has literally injured like every body part in 2021 and, was relatively healthy last year. Yeah. So I'm not worried about how Juju's departure affects Tony's value. Like, I don't think it gives him any sort of great boost or anything. Like, I'm still pretty high on Tony anyway, provided the dude can stay healthy. But I don't know what to do with Juju. And it's funny because Shane was just kind of slandering Juju a little. It was on this show a year ago when Jacob was, dragging Juju's name through the mud, where Shane was actually the one who picked up his sword and shield and was coming to Juju's defense.
Yeah. And then Juju showed me, no, I'm not good. It wasn't the situation. It's definitely me. I'm definitely just not good at fantasy football. I was holding on to that 1,400 yards second season.
Me too.
Thought he could something. He's just not the same player as he was back then. I guess having Antonio Brown on your team back then kind of freed you up to do some things underneath.
God, man, that's like Sean McVay. Just remember play-by-plays over there. Pat down there, remembering the show from a year ago.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. Yeah. And then, Jacob was definitely all over trashing Juju. And I'm like, no, give him a chance. It's still going to happen. He's still just 24 years old. Blah, 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 blah.
Patrick Mahomes, and there's nobody else on the receiver.
Yep.
On that team for receivers, I remember.
David Montgomery signs with Detroit.
God, I don't want to talk about this, dude. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it.
First things first, what does it do to DeAndre Swift's value? And then does Monty take over the Williams role, or does he just take over the whole damn backfield?
I mean, it's
Okay,
got to be. Go
no,
ahead.
No, you say.
Oh, I was just gonna. I mean, it seems to me like it is a torpedo to the hull of Swift's dynasty value. It's the fact that he's only 24 years old. I guess is a reason to hope for him, but it's just hard to see how Swift escapes this the confinement of the role the Lions have chosen him for. Like, as long as he's there, his value is just, I don't know, greatly diminished. He's got to go somewhere else if he's going to like possibly fulfill his potential.
I mean, here's the thing, and this is how we need to look at it. He's fulfilling his potential. What we thought his potential was bell cow back in the NFL. What we're finding is no, that's not what he is. What he is he's a 12 to 15 touch a guy in the NFL. Highly efficient like he was last year, right? I'm trying to look up at his points per game. It was like 13.7. I don't know if he was a top 15 back or something. If you look at it that prism and you just give up on the hopes and dreams of what could have been, where you go, oh, I think this is a guy that could get 70 receptions and run for 1,000 yards every year. Like, I think most of us thought that's who he was coming out of college. If we reposition our thoughts on him, I think you can stand. Like, if I could get him for the 111, 112, we're talking about late round rookie picks, I would. Because I think Montgomery is just coming in to fill that Jamal Williams role. And I don't, this might be blasphemy. I don't know if he's better than Jamal Williams, to be quite frank.
He's definitely not. And he sucks his hole, and he'll be lucky to just play first downs after
He
DeAndre
sucks the
Swift.
hole?
Yeah, he sucks the hole.
Wow.
So
Okay.
he sucks as a whole. He'll be lucky to just play first downs after DeAndre Swift actually stays healthy and dominates the I hate this. This is the most Lions thing ever, right? You take a guy who just set the record for touchdowns, rushing touchdowns in a season, and then you end up letting him walk, and then you take a guy and pay him double what you were paying the guy who just set the record in the AAV to take his position, and it's literally the most Lions thing ever. And the thing is I wanted to be a Lions fan. I wanted to be a fan of this organization, like as a whole. I love Jameson Williams. You know, I love Swift. I loved Hawkinson when he was here. I loved what they were doing with this offense. And then they go out and they sign my least favorite player in the NFL, David Montgomery, to double what Williams' AAV was. It is very frustrating as a fantasy fan. It's frustrated trying to root for the Lions because
so
it's
you
like,
think the Lions should have chased they should have been chasing the 17 touchdown season from Jamal Williams like that had any chance of
no,
happening?
you just don't pay a position that's replaceable double the amount of what it was. Like, it's a replaceable position. You could literally bring in anybody. I mean, look at Brian Robinson. He was able to move the chains when he needs to, and he's not a good football player. Instead, you go and you pay a guy like David Montgomery in a very rich running back class where Roschon Johnson could probably be just as efficient as David Montgomery. I mean, it's literally the most Lions thing ever. And the fact that it destroys Swift's value, I'm going to go trade for Swift in a few places just in hopes that he does get traded. But
I don't think it destroys his value. I think most people already understood what Swift was. I think if even going into last year, you still had hopes and dreams of what Swift could be. Last year was like the death knell. Like, no, that's not what he is. What he is he's a committee back. He's a committee back that, is going to get 15 touches. So it's a bigger share of most committees, but he's a committee back. He's just an efficient one.
Well, we were looking at it right before the show, Shane, and you brought it up. It was like seven or eight touches a game.
Yeah,
12.1.
12.1 opportunities per game.
And he was averaging 15 points per game. So he was averaging 13.7. So he was averaging right about 1 point per touch.
Yeah,
and the efficiency there is right on. Pat, I want to send this question to you from Jamie. Is Swift a low end RB2 or flex play right now with Monty there?
I think mid range RB2, like we still are happy with the the pass catching production, but it's frustrating that yes, he's a committee back, but man, I'd love to see him get 10 or 11 carries a game instead of 7.1 or whatever he averaged last year. Like that is like a Naheem Hines type role, and like I think Swift is a better back than that, and deserves a bigger role than that. So. But yeah, I'm a little worried just because he's so pigeonholed into this passing down role by the Lions that his value is, to me, more like, on par with Rachaad White or Dameon Pierce now.
Yeah. So go ahead, Chase. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I agree with you. It's frustrating. It's just frustrating. That's all it is.
Well, so then we'll move right on to talking about Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams goes ahead and signs with the Saints, which I love the fit, especially with all the Kamara stuff fixing to happen over this summer. How do you guys feel about this fit for fantasy managers that are out there? Shane, we'll start with you.
I don't care about Jamal Williams.
You don't care about Jamal Williams?
I mean, fine. He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine while Alvin Kamara is serving a jail sentence. And,
Stop. He's not going to go to jail, is he?
I don't know. Whatever. He's serving a suspension. Who else do they have over there? Mark Ingram,
Eno
Benjamin, who's a trash can. So look, I like
trash can.
Yes, he's terrible. I like Jamal Williams. I've always liked Jamal Williams as kind of like my buy low running back. Like I obviously didn't expect him to have 17 touchdowns last year.
Why not? He's like SpongeBob.
14 of them were on 1 yard rushes.
Yeah, absolutely. No one should expect 17 rushing touchdowns. Ever.
He's like SpongeBob.
Okay,
He feels like SpongeBob when he's. Oh, you didn't see the interview?
No.
He says that he feels like SpongeBob running around the field, but in the ocean where he's swimming and he's free.
I don't generally watch player interviews because I really don't care what they have to say about most things.
He loves Pokemon. He wants to go play with his Pokemon cards.
Okay, that's great. Anywho.
Hey, we knew that Detroit was.
Look, he's one of those. You're not going to trade for him if you already have him on your roster. Great. He's going to be a guy that's going to give you several starting weeks in the beginning of the season, and you're going to feel good. And then once Alvin Kamara comes back, you're not going to know when to start him, and you're probably going to start him on the wrong weeks. And he's not going to rush for 17 touchdowns because, well, regression's a real thing. Generally, people don't have 14 attempts within the 1 yard line. That's pretty hard to do.
Chase, tell us about your second favorite running back there. I mean, you almost have to flip the signage you have behind you. You've got Swift above Williams. I mean, it's almost Williams above Swift at this point, right?
No. So, by the way, this is Javonte Williams from his college jersey, and it just happened to be Jamal Williams signed right after I bought the jersey. So now it looks like I have two Detroit running backs behind me. But no, that's Javonte Williams, which is also a sad story for me. And I need to stop buying jerseys for NFL running backs because obviously it's toxic. But no, I mean, his value for me isn't something that you're going to go and acquire. You can, hope somebody might throw him into a deal if you're getting a trade and like you see him on there. You definitely want to throw him in because backup running backs can end up winning you fantasy leagues by the end of the season, especially with how they're treating them now, where they've literally just recycled. And something that I was thinking of earlier was like, with how the free agency is going and how the influx of the draft with the talent at running back is going, at what point do we start seeing the red zone or the dead zone for running backs doesn't really exist because everybody gets pushed back? I mean, it used to be 8 running backs drafted in the first drafts and super flex leagues. It was probably like, 4, 5 in the first 2 rounds. You'd see 10 go minimum. And now it's like last time I did a draft recently, I want to say 3 running backs went in the first 2 rounds of a super flex league. And it's like, damn.
Yeah, but that's the way it's been trending for the last 4 years, though. It's super.
Yeah.
Flex, because we realized, wait a minute. If I get like dominating quarterbacks, I can just figure out the rest of these positions. And then the running back, obviously, we know, well, okay, their value is going to decrease. It's always going to be on the descent just about like almost immediately. So why would I build around them?
By the way, shout out to Bob, of course. I'm so sorry, Bob. I missed you.
This is the harassment. Oh, and Bob was like, as soon as he comes out, he said, "No Chase." Oh, okay. Well, let's party.
It was not my choice. I did not want to miss that episode. That would have been the last episode I missed of the entire year. But now it had to happen. No, I think that at this point, like the running back dead zone, right? And because of wide receivers and tight ends too, tight ends are making their way up. We're just seeing running backs get pushed back into this dead zone that's been declared, and I just don't think it's going to exist anymore. And so I think that it's something to actually monitor as like the rounds. What was it, 4 through 7 or 5 through 7, whatever they declared as the RB dead zone should actually be looked at a little bit heavier in terms of like trying to invest in that area.
Well, what I was going to say is if you really want to zig is everyone else is building through wide receivers because they're building like, oh, I'm going to build this roster for the next 3, 4, 5 years. You know what? You go, okay, well, then I'm going to take JT and Breece Hall. And this might not be a long-term vision, right? But I'm going to also hold on to my rookie draft picks because I'm going to need them because I'm going to have to replenish the running back position with them because they're only going to last 3 years. Obviously still build through the quarterbacks, but then go heavy at running back.
Shane, this is the most like intelligent thing you've said on the show, and you've actually been really great tonight. Do you have something for Pat going over there? Are you just trying to impress him? Like, what is happening?
I was, like I said, I'm still disappointed you're on the show because I would have much preferred that it was just me, Jay, and Pat. And I didn't listen to your original question. I just wanted to.
There we go. There's Shane. I missed you, buddy.
What Shane just said was actually, Shane had said this a few weeks ago when we were talking about roster construction and zigging when everybody's zagging. And the question that Shane sent to me to ask was if everybody's buying, into wide receivers right now, what do we do different? If you remember, Chase, he was like, what was the question again? There's perfect Shane jumping in right there. Pat, you got anything else to add about Jamal Williams?
No, I mean, it's just going to be weird to triangulate his value for this upcoming year with the possibility of a Kamara suspension where he's maybe thrusts Williams into a workhorse role for X number of games. And then the other games, he's a guy who gets 10 or 11 carries and has no role in the passing game whatsoever and probably isn't startable most weeks. So, it's like, could have pockets of value, but for the most part, I think the move probably devalues him a little bit. He's not getting another 260 some carries in New Orleans.
Yeah. Unless Alvin Kamara goes to jail for the full year.
That could happen.
Yeah.
You don't want him to go. You don't want him to go for the whole year, do you?
I don't want him to go to jail at all. I mean, he seems like a lovely person, except for that time that he tried to kick someone's skull in.
Well, we got about 15 minutes or so left. I got a few more topics left on here. Falcons did some stuff on the defensive side of the ball. They traded for Jonnu Smith and signed Taylor Heineke as a potential backup for what's the quarterback they got there? Desmond Ridder. Any fantasy value in either one of those at all? With Jonnu Smith, Taylor Heineke in Atlanta?
No. I was listening to Athletic Pod, and they did bring up a good point. Is Johnny Smith's a good blocker? So maybe this will free up Kyle Pitts to be a receiving tight end because rumor is he was pretty good at that in college. So maybe Arthur Smith will look to use Kyle Pitts as a receiver. See how that turns out. Dynasty Jacks, dude. I have been begging Atlanta to pick up Lamar. That is the perfect landing spot for him.
Let me bring this up then. Let me just ask this question, and I'll just throw it out to you guys. You guys can answer it. We'll go Chase first, then we'll go to Pat, then we'll go to Shane with this. Okay, so Lamar Jackson, they designated him what's the verbiage?
Non-exclusive.
Non-exclusive. So basically, as of 4:00 today, he could talk to other teams because he represents himself, so he couldn't do it earlier. So as of 4:00 today, he could talk to other teams, but it's going to cost 2 first-round picks at minimum.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the question as to like, should a team take a risk on that? I would say absolutely, 100%. I mean, I don't understand why a team wouldn't make that move. Now, one of the teams I thought that would was the Commanders, but they did kind of take themselves out of the running for that by signing Jacoby Brissett to an extent. I think they're more likely to take a guy in the draft than they would be to take Lamar Jackson. But I don't understand why teams wouldn't take that shot, wouldn't take that chance.
Oh, it's called collusion.
That's what they're saying. Like they're saying it's collusion. I mean, that was the rumor before, and then they were like, oh no, he couldn't talk to teams because he didn't have an agent. It's like, why wouldn't teams be interested? But honestly, like,
well, I think it's because they came out and said they weren't interested.
You can't sit there and hype up Anthony Richardson and say Lamar Jackson has no value. That just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But 2 first-round picks, I mean, that would be a move to make in a heartbeat.
2 first-round picks, though, and you have to pay him a boatload of money. I think that's the hang-up.
But Deshaun Watson, right?
Yeah, that wasn't a good move, though. So, I mean, yeah, like I see your angle on it, and I think it would make sense for a team like the Falcons. Like, what else are they going to do at quarterback in the near term, unless they absolutely tank this year and find themselves in a position to get Caleb Williams or Drake May next year? But, yeah, I mean, I do think it kind of makes – the Falcons are the team, like, that makes a lot of sense, as, Dynasty Jax was alluding to.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably it is collusion. It's still collusion. But you throw Lamar on a team with Pitts and Drake London, like that's already made like, hey, we're a contender right now.
But I don't care what your offensive line looks like or your defense looks like. No. You're a contender right now with these 3 players.
And their defense, they just bolstered it, right? They just signed a bunch of guys.
They got Bates. Yep.
Yeah. Whether they overpaid for him or not, I don't really care because that doesn't affect me in any way whatsoever, especially when the cap goes up every year. Mm-hmm. But it's probably more likely they want to do Pat's route. They want to go, all right, let's just see what we have with Ritter. If he sucks, all right, we're going to have a high draft pick next year, and we're going to go get Caleb Williams or Drake May. Like they're following the Texans' blueprint, except that they have a little better of a roster already. And then again, of course, the Texans got screwed by Lovie Smith, which is hilarious. But it's probably likely they're just like, we're going to ride Ritter out, see what happens. And then unfortunately, Washington's doing the same thing. Like, all right, we're going to see what we have in Sam Howell, a 5th round draft pick, which we should already know what he is, but we're going to see what we have. If we crash and burn, we have an early pick and we just add a quarterback to the roster and hopefully we're good to go.
Yeah. I don't know if Washington or Ron Rivera sees another year after this, if he fails, especially with Bieniemy, on the staff, but it'll be fun to get to watch Rivera get fired by like week 6 and then Bieniemy actually have a head coaching job, or at least an interim head coaching job. I can't wait for that one. But
so what does Washington fans hope for first? Do they hope that Rivera gets fired, or do they hope Snyder sells? Which one has to happen first?
Oh, Snyder has to. Snyder's going to sell before the season starts. He has to. But no, I don't know. I think that a bunch of teams are starting to go that route of like, hey, we're not going to draft a quarterback. We're not going to spend money on it. We just want an early pick at this point. Tanking makes sense. Miami was the first one to publicly say it, although they didn't mean to. So
tanking for Tua.
Yeah, tank it for Tua.
Yeah. So right before we came on the became on the air there, I don't know if y'all follow it at all, but Rotoballer put out that Baltimore actually had conversation with Baker Mayfield and Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
So
they did. With Tyler Huntley still on the roster, right?
With Tyler Huntley still on the roster, and they are looking like they are going to designate him, or
they did
going to designate him, right? So, all right. So let's rapid fire these last few for this last couple minutes here. 49ers signed Sam Darnold. Are you worried?
Move.
Massive move there, right? I think. Well, you got Lance and Purdy both coming off injury.
He fits the scheme. He fits the scheme of what they want to run. So even if he ends up being a camp body throughout the offseason, he ends up the system.
Yeah, but how about this? He was like the 2nd or 3rd quarterback off the board.
Yeah, he was the 2nd.
Yeah,
it was Jimmy G was first, right?
Jimmy G and then him off the board.
Well, I mean, technically Derek Carr.
Well, Derek Carr, yeah.
And then, I mean, the Jets aren't even in the running because they're being held hostage for Aaron Rodgers. So, you know what I mean? There wasn't a ton of opportunity out there, or there wasn't a ton of teams that were looking for, I guess, third string quarterbacks, which is what Sam Darnold is. So they got a nice third string quarterback. I can't believe I'm still talking about Sam Darnold in the year 2023.
we won't talk about it the rest of the year. I promise.
Typically, with quarterbacks and wide receivers in free agency, we see like the top tier guys outside of the elite tier. You know, the elite tier is completely separate, but the top tier guys, they don't go until like day 2 or 3 of free agency. At least that's what we've seen over the past 2 years, because we've been waiting for like the Kenny Galladay's to get signed, and you know, a bunch of other busts that essentially never amounted to anything because they didn't even work with their own team. And with wide receivers, like if you're not elite, if you're just a top tier guy, you're really nothing. So
quick news update for you, Shane. You are keeping Fletcher Cox.
Oh, yeah. I mean, not to get on a tangent here, but I love how stupid other fan bases are. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe they're going to cut Slay. Like, dude, he's 32 years old. He was absolutely horrendous after 4 games last year, and they re-signed Bradbury, a cheaper, better version of him, for 3 years, $33 million.
But they had to make a decision, right? They could get Bradbury and possibly CJ Gardner-Johnson.
And that's the other thing, yeah. CJ's out there, who is probably more important. Now, if they lose CJ, then I'm a little concerned, obviously. Right. Losing Javon Hargrave sucks. But again, he's a 29-year-old defensive lineman that's got $15 million a year. Like, you can't build winning rosters doing that. Like, I don't know what San Francisco's magic is. Well, they have no money in the quarterback position, so that helps. And the Eagles are about to drop $250 million in it. But, you know, like the Eagles drafted Jordan Davis last year. There was a reason they drafted Jordan Davis.
Yeah, 100%.
There was a reason that they let TJ Edwards and Kazir White go. They drafted Nakobe Dean last year. This is why you have drafts, and this is why smart teams, you can't just build through free agency. So everyone's like just really happy about the demise of the Eagles because they've lost Darius Slay, Marcus Epps, who no one liked. But now all of a sudden it was apparently the safety of the year. Yeah, apparently he's Ronnie Lott Jr. and TJ Edwards and Kazir White. Like they lost a bunch of guys except for Javon Hargraves. Losing Hargraves really sucks. That does suck. But Jordan Davis needs to step up. There's a reason they drafted that guy.
They'll be fine. They'll be fine.
And look, they could go ahead and get the race car driver, speed racer Jalen Carter. They can move up for him.
But they don't need to move up. He had a horrific pro day today. Come in 9 pounds overweight.
Well,
he had a horrific pro day. He's going to fall into somebody's lap.
Well, he's probably depressed because he should be in prison. But that's besides the point. Or they'll draft Anthony Gonzalez. They're going to get one of those two guys. And Christian Gonzalez? Christian Gonzalez, yeah. And I prefer it be Christian Gonzalez because he's killed less people than Jalen Carter. But, you know, they're going to get one of those guys.
Stop it. All right, so we're going to move
on. Racing? He didn't kill him. They were just
all right, we got 2. I want 2 more. I want to hit
He was murder adjacent.
Baker Mayfield to Tampa on a 1-year, $8.5 million deal. Is this his last stop as the number 1 pick? Or can he actually build on what he did with the Rams last year, with Tampa, with the weapons that he has in Tampa, and put it into something else, whether it's with Tampa or with another team next year? Is this Baker Mayfield's last chance? I guess I should ask. Pat?
Probably the last year he opens the season as a starter anywhere.
Chase?
Yeah, I have no interest in Baker.
Even with the weapons that are surrounding him?
0 interest in Baker. Okay. I have him in 1 league, and I don't really know what to do with him at this point. I haven't dropped him quite yet, but he will likely be a drop candidate if nobody wants to trade for him, because I think at this point he's more of a roster clog. Okay. Like, even if I have him on a bye week, do I want to start him to get 10 points in my super flex position? Probably not. So, I mean, sure, quarterbacks are valuable in super flex, but if nobody's willing to give me like even a 3rd round pick for him, he is on the drop block for me once the rookie drafts roll around.
All right, I lied. I have 2 more now. Michael Thomas, 1 year with the Saints, looks to be completely incentive-laden contract. Is there any value with Derek Carr on the roster, Olave on the other side? Is there any value left with Michael Thomas? Shane?
Value or production are 2 different things. Like, is there trade value in him in fantasy football? No. is he worth, if someone wants to take a fourth for him, I'll send them a fourth for Michael Thomas and bet against time. But
is he worth holding on your roster? Is he a roster clogger at this point, or is he somebody you want to hold on to?
I'll tell you what. So let you make this a little harder. Is it an FFPC roster where you can only roster 20 guys or 22 guys? Superflex? No, I wouldn't roster.
Okay.
In most of our typical dynasty leagues where we're rostering 25 to 30 guys, including, and then also having an IR and a taxi. So really we could just inflate that. Yeah, I'm not going to let him go. Because he could have that little run like he did last year where it looked like he was back for a couple games, right? And then try to trade him and get out on him.
Yeah, can I come up with a few players and see? Well, Pat, are you on the same page real quick before I do that? You on the same page as Shane?
I am. I think Shane said it well.
So I'll run through a few guys and just see if you all are on the same page as me, if you don't mind, Gator.
Go ahead.
Let's say Allen Robinson or Michael Thomas.
I mean, I think Robinson's even a roster clogger at this point, right?
Yeah.
I think I'd take the chance with Thomas, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, Thomas is by far and away for me. I wouldn't even be close to me. What about, you said 20 person team, so Kadarius
Tony.
Oh, yeah,
Easy.
Tony.
Okay. What about like Van Jefferson?
What's his name? Michael Thomas.
Mecole Hardman?
Thomas.
Oof, okay.
I mean, the only guy that had any upside that you've listed that was Tony. You know what I mean? Like, you list another guy like that, and it's going to be other guy like that. Like, if you're like, oh, Wan'Dale Robinson or Michael Thomas, well, Wan'Dale Robinson. But if you keep listing these old never-beens and has-beens, then...
John Mechie.
Well, I think age has to come into, and of course, the history with injury, right? It has to come into play at some point, right?
Yeah, you know what? I would take Mechie. I liked Mechie coming out of college last year, and he didn't play last year, obviously, because of beating cancer. So it's hard to really be like, oh, well, he lost value. Like, he didn't play at all. And I liked him a year before. I liked his profile a year before, so I still like it. And Thomas is a year older with another ankle injury.
All right, Sky Moore.
Sky Moore.
Sky Moore. I mean, you got to it's got to be Sky Moore, especially with Patrick Mahomes.
Shane's like, no.
I mean,
you like Mechie more than you like Sky Moore?
You said Sky Moore versus Mechie?
No. Sky Moore or Thomas?
I'd take Michael Thomas over Sky Moore.
So you liked Mechie more than you liked Sky
No,
Moore.
I liked Sky Moore much more than I liked John Mechie, but Sky Moore went out there and had less than 300 yards receiving, and his ADP has probably dropped by about 50 slots since last year. Mm-hmm. So he is the perfect example of a face-planting rookie that is dead in fantasy.
All right, guys, we hit that 1 hour mark.
Wait, hold up, Pat.
Go ahead, Pat. Go ahead.
I was just going to say Hunter Renfrow or Michael Thomas.
Ooh, now you're getting interesting.
All right, now see, gloves are fixing to get put on. This is fixing to be a fight. Go ahead.
So I like Hunter Renfrow a lot, but I also like. So I have not been a Michael Thomas fan like this entire time you're doing fantasy football. Like me and Jacob get into it all the time because I never liked Michael Thomas. But I think I would take Michael Thomas way higher than any one of the guys that we've discussed. Outside of Kadarius Toney, of course, because Kadarius Toney is the wide receiver 1 for 2023. But no,
it's just like Ben Albright telling me that Tim Patrick's going to be the wide receiver 1 next year.
I think he just meant for Denver when he ended up putting that post.
I don't know, because he was talking about fantasy and then followed it up with he's a wide receiver 1. So I didn't want to.
Looks like we got some breaking news.
What's the breaking news?
Madison has signed a 2-year deal with the Vikings. Is that correct? It looks.
Dalvin Cook getting cut?
Well, I mean, so the Dolphins have signed everybody in the world in the running back industry, and except for Dalvin Cook, they were actually looking to trade him. The other running back they didn't sign was Samaje Perine, who went to Denver. How do you guys like the Perine to Denver?
I don't care.
You don't care about Samaje Perine in Denver?
No, the only thing I care is it shows me that Javonte Williams is forever in a committee backfield. Yeah, I thought you were going to at least talk about Miles Sanders. At least that's
Cool.
somebody with a little bit of fun and a little bit of juice.
I was going to ask. I wanted to leave that to the very, very end. Miles Sanders to Carolina, 4-year deal. So he's going to be there a while. It looks like it's going to be his backfield to himself. I mean, he's going to, Chuba Hubbard, it may still be there. I'm not sure if he's under contract, but I know Devontae Foreman is a free agent right now. So it's him and Chuba Hubbard. It looks like he's going to have the backfield to himself. Chase, tell us about your boy going to Carolina. I know how much you love him.
Yeah, I've liked Miles Sanders for a minute now. I liked him more in a high-powered offense that I know is going to move the ball. It's a little bit concerning that he goes to Carolina, but Carolina does have the first overall pick, so they're probably going to be a little more run-heavy over the first year or so. With Miles Sanders, I'm taking him. If I have him, I'm going to roll with him. And then once ends up hitting about halfway through the season, after he has a couple of 20-point fantasy outputs, I'm going to move him ASAP.
What do you think you're going to get for him?
With a couple of 20-point outputs, late first, early second.
Yeah. Look, dude, even last year when Sanders was balling and he was a top 12 back for the first little bit of the season, man, I tried to move that dude absolutely everywhere. And all it was, I'll give you a second.
I got the 106 for him is what it turned out. It was a mid-first round pick is what I got for him in one league. Well, I traded him and Aaron Jones together for 2 firsts and a second.
This is why you're not allowed around children, because you do things like that. You trade the Miles Sanders for a 106. Not cool.
Yeah, well, that's what I got. It's not my fault.
Jeez.
No, but I ended up getting 2 first round picks. One was like the 106, one was like the 108, and then a second round pick for both him and Aaron Jones. So,
dude, I like Miles in Carolina. I think it was Kate Majewski. I don't know how to say her last name. Tweeted out the Carolina side. Miles Sanders is their wide receiver 1 because he's the best wide receiver on that team right now.
Irv Smith Jr., bro. Irv Smith Jr.
Did they sign Irv Smith Jr.?
No, they did sign Hayden Hurst, though.
They did sign Hayden Hurst. So they had Hayden Hurst.
Wait, who did he go to then? Who did Irv Smith Jr. go to?
Not even sure.
I stopped caring about Irv Smith.
Has he signed anywhere yet?
I don't think he has, to be quite honest.
I think he's in the XFL.
Pat, go ahead. Tell us your thoughts on the Miles Sanders to Carolina.
Yeah, Chase summed it up pretty well. I mean, I think I'd maybe rather see him in a high-powered offense with a really good offensive line, and but they are probably going to try to be run-heavy to protect their rookie quarterback. So it's a good spot, and probably no one is going to threaten his primacy as the top guy. I don't know if Chuba Hubbard is really going to threaten his workload at all. So good spot, but yeah, I don't think I'd give up a first rounder for him just because I don't know, maybe if all dynasty leagues weren't PPR leagues, but that just kind of caps his ceiling that he just doesn't catch that many passes.
So here's one thing it'll be interesting to see. Can we see some regression back to like his rookie season when he was actually a good receiver? And I don't know what happened. And again, this might be a little bit of holding on to the Juju 1,400 yards in his second year type of deal. But he was a good receiver. I don't know. They just phased him out of that. But it was 2 different coaching staffs that decided they took a look at him and like, no, we don't want to use you that way.
Yeah, he did it a little in his 1 year at Penn State after Barkley left, I think. So yeah. I'm not sure why he didn't get a chance to do that for Philly.
Well, I don't know. Stroud probably didn't have to dump down a lot at Ohio State, right? Because he had good receivers. So I don't know if how he'll feel about dumping down in the NFL, but he should have a lot of dump offs because he has Laviska Shenault and Terrace Marshall as his wide receivers.
Well, guys, if you were
I just had the weirdest dream possibly of all time.
While you were on the show, you fell asleep with your eyes open, you weirdo?
Yeah, maybe. I think I dreamt that Irv Smith Jr. went to the Panthers and they also signed Hayden Hurst because I've been tweeting about it all day, like yesterday.
Not surprised.
No one happened.
Here's the thing: no one cares about Irv Smith, so no one corrected you. No one even verified.
Nobody
it.
even
just
noticed.
Like, sure. That
Nobody
sounds
even
right.
noticed that tweet went out.
Yeah.
Guys, if you're still around, make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe. You spent the whole hour with us. We do appreciate it. Pat, thank you for coming on tonight. Tell us what's going on this off season and where people can find you.
Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, just right now, a lot of Fantasy Pros reaction to breaking free agent stuff. We've got a free agent tracker that's given our takes on everything pretty shortly after it happens. And, you know, I also work for this site called Betting Pros that is going to be pretty happening this week with March Madness. So, yeah, a lot going on. And, you know, getting ready for the NFL draft too, and covering all the rookie stuff and doing the Dynasty show on Fantasy Pros with my partner, Scott Bogman, that Shane and Chase have both appeared on. So, yeah, and people can check me out on Twitter at @Fitz_FF.
Shane.
And I'll just say, if you haven't checked out Fitz on Fantasy, great show. And if you haven't checked out Dynasty Pros on Fantasy Pros, also a great show with Pat and Scott. And Pat has the most eclectic group of fantasy people. Like literally everyone has been on Pat's show at one point or another, I think. But then the same people have been on there 4 times. I'm not sure how that happens, but I love Pat's shows. So check out Pat's shows if you haven't. Dynasty Trades in 5 on the YouTubes. Go hit subscribe. Closing in on 8,000 subscribers and 1 million hours view time. And then we're going to do another listener league because we're degenerates. Dynasty Trades HQ once a week. This week I did it by myself, and that was interesting. But that just went out to the patrons.
Wait, you did a solo show?
I did a solo show. I did they both abandoned me. One had food poisoning, and the other had some Comic-Con convention show things. And I said, I can't, look, I got patrons. They need a show. I'm going to do a show. And I did a show by myself. And from what I hear, it wasn't that awful.
Did you pay attention the whole time to your own show?
No. I definitely got distracted during the show by myself. There was a couple times where I just started playing on my phone, and I remembered, like, oh wait, it's just me. Like, no one else is going to pick up. I got to.
Oh crap! I'm live.
I got to keep talking.
I literally could only imagine how that show went. Where it's like you sit there and you just trail off while you're talking, and then you're like, oh shit! My bad, guys. So what was I talking about? Oh, there's nobody to tell me. Okay, let's go. Oh man,
Chase, tell them where they can find you.
Over there at FF_intervention over there on Twitter. The biggest thing that we're doing right now, and you'll need to check out, is over there on YouTube. We aren't. Jason is actually putting together all of the combine clips and letting you all see how some of these rookies looked at the combine. We have some of the concepts that I think are in place that I get to talk to Jay about, hopefully tonight or tomorrow, that we want to pursue over the next few weeks. We're going to put out a lot of shorts, just content up until the draft. And then content after the draft, and then content once the season starts. So it's coming at y'all. Go check it out. YouTube is growing like crazy, and it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, it's been fun doing the shorts. It's been fun building the videos and watching the YouTube side of things grow. So I've enjoyed the hell out of it. Guys, you can find me over at FantasyJ77 on Twitter. Please, like I said before, hit that like, hit that subscribe, comment. Let us know what you guys need us to go over. Let us, like we got Pat on, so let us know who you want to hear from. Any of that good stuff like that, good, bad, ugly, indifferent. Kick and Chase off the show on a regular, that's fine too. Just let us know if that's what you would like to do. Guys, we greatly appreciate it. For Pat, for Shane, for Chase, I'm Gator J. We out.